welcome to this webinar. My name is Brian Bennett. I am a leader, I'm a pastor, and I am the founder of MultiplyLeaders, which is a resourcing and coaching organization that is committed to helping leaders unlock their potential in Jesus' name. I am very passionate, and I just love what really stirs my heart, and what I love is seeing leaders have those aha moments where their light bulb goes off and they have a paradigm shift that changed the trajectory of their leadership. And for me, the principle of explicit leadership is one of those aha moments in my life. As a moment that I had a few years ago, and just kind of stumbled into this idea of the difference between an implicit and an explicit leader. And the principle I want to share with you has been a powerful principle and a powerful paradigm shift in my own life, and I believe it will be in yours as well. Who is MultiplyLeaders? We are a coaching and resourcing organization, and that means we seek to provide resources through our blog, through our books, through our videos that are helpful in helping leaders energize their vision, their passion, and develop those skills that are necessary to thrive into the fullness as who we are as leaders, and then provide coaching to come alongside leaders wherever they are and help them get greater clarity, more focus, and greater traction as they are seeking to live out and accomplish the dreams in their hearts and the visions in their eyes for what they have for their life, the callings on their life, what's ahead of them. So that's ultimately who we are. I wrote Explicit Leadership, a book that's coming out March 1st of 2015, to share this principle and this powerful idea. So I want to encourage you to grab the book. Inside of it is, at the very beginning, is the Explicit Leaders Creed, which I'm about to read to you. And I think that if we will really center and focus our minds, our hearts, our wills around this creed for 30 days and just dial in to what's at the core content of it. And if this creed doesn't stir your heart, just write your own. But to kind of have a creed for what it looks like to lead with belief and with passion and with love every single day, and to kind of center and focus our minds on entering our day as that person and bringing that to our workplaces, to our families, to our friendships. And that's what it's all about. So I encourage you to pick up the book. And if you don't want to, at the end of the webinar, I'll give you my email address and you can email me, and I'll put the creed in your hands. Like I said, if this creed that I'm about to read, if it doesn't stir your heart, then write your own, but make sure you're living intentionally and purposefully a life of love, a life of passion, a life of encouragement and affirmation. The Explicit Leader Creed. I refuse to live passively. I refuse to point the finger at someone else. I refuse to use my words to tear down, undermine, or destroy. I refuse to assume others know I believe in them, know I care, know I love. I refuse to make people guess. I believe the gospel of Jesus, a gospel of leaving old things and embracing new. I believe I am who God says I am. I believe God will do what He has promised to do. I believe that God has resurrection power. I will trust God to grow me into the fullness of who I am in Jesus. I believe in the redemptive potential of every person that I see. I will speak to that potential through encouragement. I will use my words to build up. I will use my words to celebrate. I will use my words to stir passion. I will seek to integrate my words and my actions, and I will stand alone if I must. Behind me will be a line of people who've been believed in, who've been inspired, who've been encouraged, who've been celebrated. A line of people whom I loved with my whole heart as I led them. I want to encourage you to reflect on that creed daily for 30 days straight, and choose a time in the first few hours of the morning. 5 minutes would be fine. But I think it's a powerful paradigm, that creed, to start our day as we kind of center ourselves and remind ourselves of what we believe. And I want to encourage you to write your own creed if you desire to do that. If that one doesn't fully resonate with you, write your own creed or change that one to fit your own life. And just take the first 5 or 10 minutes in the first hour of your day to really lock in and really start from a focused place as you live each day. And from that creed, here are two powerful reflection questions, and you can see the first one already up on the screen, to kind of take stock of our lives as we reflect on that creed. And here's the first one. Are you a powerful presence of love, belief, and encouragement to others?
If we went to your friends, your family, your children, your coworkers, your neighbor, whoever it is that you come into contact with on a daily basis, if we just did a 360 and asked everyone just to answer yes or no to that question, or to rate you on a scale from 1 to 10, what would the results be? Are you a powerful presence of love, belief, and encouragement to others? Because if you are, that's a game changer in our leadership. That is a difference maker in the lives of others around us. And here's the second reflection question. What legacy do you desire to leave behind you? And this is a great and powerful question. When you come to the end of your life, and you look back on the life that you've lived, that's what your legacy is going to be. The way that you've treated people, the things that you've said, the actions that you've chose, the things that you did with your life, with your time, the way you used every single day, invested every single day, that's going to be your legacy. Every single moment we're living our legacy. And so as we look back into the present, how do you want to be remembered by those around you? What do you want to have accomplished in the time that you've been given on earth? Right? When you get to the end of your life and you look back, what do you leave behind you? What do you want to leave behind you? What's going to be your legacy? This is important for explicit leadership because it's easy to only think of ourselves when we think of that question. But I think when we really get to the core of who we are as human beings and really get to the core of what it means to live a meaningful, powerful life, that we ultimately see that our legacy is about everyone else. And for me, my legacy is about honoring God, and it's about the way that I treat people. And in my family, my sons, my friends, my strangers, my coworkers, legacy is about how I treat all of them, and do I do it in a way that honors God and kind of magnifies and glorifies Him in the process. What's legacy look like for you? That is an empowering question as you kind of come to grips with that. The principle of explicit leadership, I just want to dive in now to what this principle really is and to define it. See, too often we assume. An assumption is a leadership killer. We assume that others around us, wherever we are, in our homes, on our teams, in the key relationships with the people that we know and love, we assume that people know that we love them and believe in them. And that's what implicit is. Implicit is assuming, but explicit means that we leave no doubt. And that's really what the principle is all about, is that we become a person, a leader who leaves no doubt in the minds and hearts of who's around you, who's the others in your life, the minds and hearts of our spouse, of our children, of our co-workers, as those we serve in the community, of our neighbors on our street, of those in our churches, or in the things that we do with our hobbies, right? Those in the clubs that we're a part of. We leave no doubt around the people that we're around, wherever it is, every single day, that we believe in them, that we value them, and that we celebrate them. So that's what explicit leadership. It's a shift from being implicit, which is assumption, that's a killer to our leadership, to explicit, which means we become a powerful presence of leaving no doubt in the lives of others around us. So that's really what I want to encourage you is to choose. And I do believe it's a choice, as we'll unpack this further, but to choose to become a powerful presence of passion and encouragement and celebration by becoming an explicit leader. I believe that all of us, every single one of us on this webinar, can choose to become that presence of passion, encouragement, and celebration in the lives of others. Here's why this concept is so powerful. It's because it unlocks our perspective to reframe our life in leadership. Right? This concept of saying, okay, I'm no longer going to assume that others around me know I love them, know and I believe in them, and know I value them, know that they've done a good job. I'm no longer assuming that. Now I'm going to be very explicit. I'm going to be very verbal, but even by my presence alone, I'm going to live a life that's lifting others up, that's elevating them, and that is going to let people know so they have no doubt in their lives. Right? That is a perspective shift, and it reframes our life and our leadership. It's got the power to reframe, because it's so easy to live passively. That's a part of my story. A victim to our own struggles or fears and failures. Instead of being honest with ourselves about the challenges and the struggles, and then choosing to bring our best every day around everyone that we're with so that we can elevate them and lift them up in their life into their full potential in Jesus. I think there's a lot of obstacles to becoming an explicit leader, and the more that we can identify those obstacles, the more that we can face them and jump into those obstacles and overcome those obstacles so that we can reach our full potential. So here are some of the obstacles that if we're not careful, that can hold us back from becoming an explicit leader. For some of us, we're waiting to receive it to give it. We're waiting to receive encouragement or receive love or receive celebration or receive belief in who we are, because we don't feel like we've gotten that we haven't received it from our boss or our spouse or some of our friends or whoever in our life. We're waiting to be receivers in order to be givers. But what that does is it limits us to the people around us. It limits our potential to the people around us and what they will say. And the reality is in this world, there are very few people who are explicit leaders. There's very few people who live a life of encouragement and celebration and elevating others and affirmation. There's many people who are passionate and who are going about and accomplishing it, but they're doing that for themselves. An explicit leader is someone who comes to every day with passion, but they come with passion and joy to life for the sake of others, not just for themselves, not just for their name, not just for more income or whatever it is that they want, not just for a bigger house, but they're coming at not just for more sales, but to lift everyone around them up and to lift them to the next level. And so if we wait till we receive it, we've just limited ourselves and placed ourselves, our potential, underneath the people around us, and that's a dangerous thing to do. We've got not to wait, but just to dig and find it and find what we need to receive. And I believe that's dwelling in God's love, and that's getting real clarity about who we are, who our identity is, so that we can then live out God's love into the life of others. We can't wait for a father or a friend or a boss to give that to us. We've got to go and find it and find what we need inside to be able to give that to others. Here's another obstacle, is that we use our words to tear others down. You know, it's odd how much easier it is to be negative, to gossip, to slander, to kind of beat others down with our words or undermine them slightly instead of build others up. It's just far easier to be a complainer and to be negative than it is to be someone who just by your mere presence, people know it's going to be encouraging because you have that kind of reputation. Whenever you walk into a space, you're not taking energy from them, you're not beating people down, you're not undermining, you're not gossiping. They trust your integrity, and they know that you're someone who's going to always build others up, who's going to always speak about others' potential, who's going to see the best in others and assume the best in them, and who's going to use their words to lift others up. Now, that might be easy in certain circles of our life, like at work, that might be easier, or for some of us in the home, that might be easier. In certain relationships, but I know for all of us, because I know this is true in my life, there's certain circles in my life where that's harder than in others. But explicit leadership is about being a 360 explicit leader in every aspect of our life and every role that we have. If we're living from the center of who we are, it's not just going to be we're an explicit leader at work and not at home, or that we're explicit with our children but not with our spouse, but we're going to be an explicit leader wherever we are. It's about kind of living and leading from the center of who God has made us to be, and that means we're going to be consistent in being an explicit leader. And I always challenge my team and myself to be better at home than I am in my vocation, to be better there, and that's a tough one for me. That's the hardest place to be better, is to be better at home, but it's so important. Another obstacle is business. If we're exhausted, we don't have time to encourage and build up, right? We won't have time to refuel our own hearts and minds and souls, to bring our very best each day. And we've got to refuel if we're going to be lifting others up and choosing that kind of attitude and perspective that is and defines an explicit leadership. For others of us, the obstacle is fear and anxiety. We're anxious about what others will think of us, or we're so filled with anxiety or fear that there's very little room for joy in our hearts. There's very little room for an overflow of the love of God. All right, we feel so in turmoil inside of ourselves for various reasons, with fear and anxiety, that we can't bring encouragement out because we're trapped into our own cycles of being in a place of fear or a place of anxiety. And so we've got to deal with those things and face those things and name them, and then make sure we're being refueled in who we are, so there's not just fear and anxiety, but there's love and there's focus and clarity and there's inspiration and passion inside of us, so that we can live out what it means to be an explicit leader. Passivity, just a passive mindset, that it's just so easy to think, well, I'm a victim to my boss. I'm a victim to the workplace culture. My spouse treats me like this or doesn't do this. My children are this, or the situation in my life that I've been dealt with, the cards that I've been dealt with in life. I'm just going to have to be passive to it. And it's just not true. And so what I'm encouraging us is not to pretend like everything's roses and daisies when it's not, but to be honest about the challenges of life, but not to be a victim to them, to be honest about what's hard and what breaks our hearts and what sucks the energy out of us, but then not to choose to just live without hope and to live with very little energy and to kind of go just float through our days, but instead be purposeful and intentional about rooting ourselves in the hope that God gives us and in the hope of the future kind of potential that is ours and is in around us in the lives of others, and to be someone who's not only emotionally healthy and naming those things that are hard, but is emotionally healthy enough to kind of recenter and refocus ourselves so that we can magnify what's good and magnify God's grace in our life and magnify God's power and choose to make the best out of every situation that we've been dealt with. So that means to mourn the brokenness of the world, but also choose to see the beauty and the good and to live with passion and focus, as we'll talk further about. And just the awkwardness. I think sometimes we're afraid of that moment where we're going to experience a deeper connection with someone as we love them with our words, or maybe we don't work in an encouraging environment, so it's just hard for us to step out and to change that environment. It's hard for us to be the one because it might feel soft to some of us, or we just might feel insecure saying that. We might be afraid of the intimacy that comes from just sharing, encouraging someone around us, loving them with our words and believing in them. It just might feel weird to us to do that because it hasn't been kind of typical of our life thus far. It has been something we've been a part of, and so that first initial moment, just overcoming that. What is your obstacle to leading as an explicit leader every day? I think it's important for us to just identify those obstacles, and then we can choose to start facing them and ultimately overcome them. If we're going to be an explicit leader, then we've got to be living a charged life every single day. We've got to choose to live a charged life. And once again, you're going to hear me say this numerous times, it's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice. Choosing to live a charged life, that's a choice. One of the shifts that unlocked my leadership to the next level was choosing this very thing, to live a charged life. And that verse there from Jesus is a verse for me that reminds me of the fullness of life that Jesus has come to give. That I have come that you may have life and have it to the fullest, is what Jesus says. And ultimately, Jesus left the glory and beauty of heaven to come and identify himself with us, to stand in our place and to die in our place on our behalf, taking on our sin, our shame, that he might rise again so that we can have the fullness of life. And this side of heaven, make no mistake, Jesus also says in this life you're going to have many troubles, but he says to take heart, I've overcome the world. And that's what I'm encouraging you with. I'm not encouraging you to pretend that the world's a better place than it is. I'm encouraging you to be honest about the challenges of the world, but to take heart in Jesus and to believe and live into the fullness of life that is in him. This side of heaven, that's always going to be an unfulfilled journey. This side of heaven, we're always going to be leaning into that fullness, and we're never going to experience it until Jesus finishes his work of restoration. But I want to challenge and encourage you to lean into the fullness of life that comes in and through Jesus, that Jesus has made possible, to take heart because he's overcome the world. And so there's a few things there as I think about living a charged life, and I thought about how does it look like to live a charged life in my own life and the shifts that I've made. Here's a few things. A charged life is a life of intentionality and purpose. We don't just wake up every day and live a charged life because there's just far too much challenge, far too much self-doubt, lack of identity, pressures coming from every direction. And it's easy for us to magnify these challenges and feel defeated and overwhelmed instead of magnifying this hope and magnifying the beauty and magnifying what's good, and then coming and living inspired. So to live a charged life, it means we're intentional and we're purposeful about doing a few things. And the first one is this, is to clarify our purpose. When we're intentional about clarifying our purpose, it ignites our passion and it empowers us to live with great focus. That's what purpose does. When we've got clarity about who we are and what we are here to do, and we've got clarity about our future hope, about this fullness of life that comes through Jesus, man, clarity is empowering and it ignites. It's an igniter of passion. The second thing that you're going to see there is to set your internal temperature. So a thermostat reads the temperature and then adjusts, right, to make it warmer or cooler. But a thermometer reads the temperature, but it can't do anything. All it does is read the temperature. And this was one of the mistakes I was making in my life, and I bet some of you on this webinar are making as well, is you're living life like you have an internal thermometer. You're living life like you can read the temperature, but you can't change it, when in fact you have a thermostat. And that's just a shift in of itself, is knowing that you have a thermostat, that you can read your internal kind of heartbeat and passion and how full your tank is, and then you can adjust. You can adjust to live a more passionate and energized life. You can make that shift because you don't have a thermometer, you have a thermostat within. And so we've got to come at life every day realizing that we have a thermostat. And now for some of us, there might be some work to be done. We might need to get counseling. That's been a part of my story. Counseling was a grace on the journey for me that helped unlock my thermostat and move me away from just having a thermometer. Whatever it is for you, we might need a coach. And that's one of the things that we do here at Multiply Leaders is we walk beside others as a coach. We might just need a friend in our life to come alongside and journey with us. And that might help unlock our thermostat. Whatever it is, make sure every single day you're not waking up with a thermometer, but you're waking up and you're living intentionally and purposely with a thermostat. You see, a passive mentality believes that we are stuck to whatever happens to us in life. And if that's the case, then we have very little hope, right? If that's the case, we have very little hope of living a more fulfilled, a more energized, a more focused, a more passionate life of love and encouragement and celebration in the lives of others. And though it's hard, change is very hard. Making shifts in who we are is very hard. But in God's grace and power by His Holy Spirit, it's absolutely possible. Sometimes it takes a little longer as we start identifying some of the obstacles and overcoming them. I think the next thing is invest time in refueling your passion, right? If we're not refueling our passion every single day, every single week, we're going to be running on empty quickly, because there's a lot of things in life that are taking out of us. We've got to make sure that we're waking up every single day and that we're having some things, some people, some readings, listening to some people, putting ourselves into positions where we're being refueled in our passion. So identify what it is that refuels you and make sure that you're refueling your passion. The next is renewing your mind in God's truth. If you're going to live a charged life, I believe that we have to take thoughts captive, and the way that we talk to ourselves is so essential on our journey. All right, the way that we talk to ourselves determines that self-talk is so powerful in determining our attitudes, is determining our joy, determining our vision for that day. And it's so easy to not say the things that God's saying to us, but to talk down to ourselves and to beat ourselves up emotionally and to shame ourselves and really to push ourselves down instead of leaning into this fullness of life that Jesus has come to give. So we've got to know what's in God's word so that we can remind ourselves of what is God's truth, what's God's voice to us. And shame and being defeated and kind of taking ourselves and just beating ourselves down to where we live a half-alive life, that's not God's voice in our life. So we've got to take thoughts captive and say, is this what God's saying? And the only way to know that is to know God's word. The next one is to spend time with inspiring people. We talked about that when we talked about investing time and refueling. But you've got to spend time around people who are living an inspired life, because you'll rub off on them and they will rub off on you. And you're going to be giving to a lot of people who are not living an inspired life. And so you've got to make sure that you're spending some time around a couple key people in your life who are inspired, who are focused, and who are going to give to you just as much as you're going to give to them. And then lastly is live within your boundaries. Burnout, exhaustion, saying yes to everything will mean saying no to living with a strong inner charge. So to live a full life, and we've got to honor our limits. And that means when we honor our limits that we're going to protect our inner charge every single day. So God's given us boundaries. None of us are limitless. Now we can increase our capacity, but at the end of the day, making sure that we're getting the right amount of sleep, that we're taking care of ourselves physically, that we're eating well and we're fueling our day. That was a huge shift for me in living a charged life, was just changing my eating habits every single day. Doing those things is really going to help us to unlock our potential as we seek to live as an explicit leader. So we'll talk about a few shifts to unlocking the explicit leader within. And we've talked about this a little bit, but defining and remembering your purpose and calling is huge. It just can't be understated how significant it is to define your purpose and your life calling, and to remember it every single day, to build rhythms into your day and into your week where you're reminding yourself of your purpose and of your calling. Because if you don't define it, someone else in your life is going to. And they might not have your best interest in mind. They might not have the legacy that you have in mind for you. So we've got to take action and define our own purpose and calling. And then we've got to be very active to remind ourselves what that is every day. So here's some shifts. Shifting from ignorance to understanding the power of explicit leadership. For some of us, it's just realizing how powerful it is to encourage others, to celebrate others, to build others up, and just thinking about in our own lives the experiences where someone has built into us in that way, where someone has believed in us and called out the potential in us, where someone has encouraged us, right? Or someone has celebrated us in front of others, and remembering what that felt like. For some of us, it's just remembering what it felt like to really be loved by someone and really be cared for by them, and how much that mattered to us. And so sometimes it's just shifting our perspective, and that's a perspective shifter of maybe just not realizing. I know for me it was, because I used to think, wake up every day and do your job, and you don't get kudos for that. You're just doing your job. Why would I encourage you for doing the thing that you're paid to do? Right? That doesn't inspire anyone. That doesn't fuel a culture of celebration, of joy. That doesn't fuel a culture of energy. Right? That's kind of a heavy-handed culture where it's just like, hey, you did your job. Good job for you, right? The weak need encouraged. But over time, just realizing the power of living every single day as an explicit leader. The next shift is from tearing down the building up. If you're tearing down with your words, you will not have credibility as an explicit leader when you start trying to build up. So the first thing to do is to stop tearing down with your words, to be on mission, to be someone who never tears others down. Because when you tear others down, it makes them think, man, what's he saying when I'm not here? Right? What's she saying when I'm not in the room? If she's saying that about someone else, what's she saying about me to others? And it just becomes suspicion. When you tear others down, people have suspicion about your motives, about your integrity, about your character. So we've got to move from tearing down to building up and looking to build others up. And here's my encouragement. When you think it, say it. When you think, oh, they did a great job, say it. When you think, man, I really care for that person, tell them. Tell them that you believe in them. Tell them you love them. Tell them that you're so thankful to work beside them, or you're so thankful to be in this relationship with them, or you're so glad that they're your son or your daughter. So if you think it, say it when it comes to building up. We've got to move from passive to active. We've talked a lot about that, and that's a huge shift. We've got to move from silence to celebration and overcome those obstacles. For some reason, using our voice to be an explicit leader is hard for some of us. I know it was hard for me to start encouraging people more outside of meetings, and it just feels at first people like they're like, okay, what's your motive? Why are you saying this? What are you trying to get from me? And to be an authentic, explicit leader where you're not trying to get, but you're trying to give to them. And you're not trying to use them or manipulate them, but you're moving from silence to celebration with others, and then from fear to freedom, right? From living in fear, maybe about who you are and your insecurities and what other people will think of you, or fear of failure, to living in a freedom where you're living out of the core of your heart and you're getting rooted every day and you're living a charged life and you're feeling more alive than you've ever felt. So that's the shift. Those are the 6 shifts that I think are really important as you think about moving and becoming an explicit leader. And now I want to talk to you about the actions of an explicit leader. So I think there's a few things, and here they are. Living with a passionate vision, right? The actions of an explicit leader is someone who lives with a passionate vision for their life. They have a clarity, as we talked about earlier, about the future of the organization, about the future of their life, about the future of their home. And one of the things that we do at MultiplyLeaders is life planning, so that we get clarity about our marriage relationships or our friendships. We get clarity about how we want to care for ourselves. We get clarity about our finances. We get clarity about our vocational kind of work. We get clarity about the legacy in all aspects of our life that we want to leave behind us. And when you have clarity, it, as we said earlier, it ignites passion. So an explicit leader shows up every day with a passionate vision, and that is a choice. They've chosen before they've shown up to get themselves rooted in what they believe and what they're hoping and what they're committed to seeing in the future. An explicit leader also celebrates others publicly, commits that action of public celebration. So in a team meeting, It might look like at the start of the meeting just saying, hey, so-and-so last week did an awesome job at this, or I heard that they made this sale, or I saw them speak and they did a phenomenal job, or somebody else had mentioned to me how great they were in this meeting, or whatever it is. It's just finding opportunities to celebrate others and to celebrate them in a public way. There's something so powerful about being celebrated in a public way. And then the third thing is generous encouragement. I've heard someone talk about the reckless farmer who's sowing seed, and just to think about being a generous, reckless encourager, that you're sowing the seeds of encouragement wherever you are, and you're sowing them generously above and beyond. And so sometimes, for whatever reason, we don't want to encourage because we think it's awkward, or because maybe someone's not performing to the best of their potential, and we think, man, if we encourage them, they're just going to coast. But it's actually the opposite. When we don't encourage, people get locked into kind of where they are. But we encourage and plant those seeds recklessly. We fuel a culture where people bring their very best every single day, and people have confidence in who God has made them to be, and their purpose and their calling. Radical love is the fourth, is this action of an explicit leader is someone who loves radically. They love with authenticity. They love with a selfless love, not a selfish love. They're not looking to take from others. They're looking to give. They're looking to empower. They're looking to build up others around them. And so it's this selfless love that reflects Christ's love. And it's a love that's a servant leader love, and a love that gets down to wash the feet of everyone around them, and a love that seeks to care for others in a way that leaves them to their kind of full potential. And lastly, just a purposeful belief. And what I mean by purposeful is we're choosing when we see others to see them with redemptive eyes. We're choosing when we see others to see their potential, to see not the worst about them. All right, that's true. All of us have brokenness, and because we live in a world that's been broken by sin. But when we see others around us on our teams, is to see with a purposeful belief in them, seeing the fullness of who they are. Right? Not seeing the worst, but seeing the fullness, seeing the potential of who they are, who they can become in through Jesus and His power in their life. So as an explicit leader, we see that and we speak to that place. We call that out of them. Those are some of the actions, and I talk more about those actions in the book. So I want to encourage you and challenge you and just tell you that I believe that you can do this. I really do. That all of us can become a champion of others. And just imagine for a moment a home where everyone's seeking to be a champion of others, a workplace where everyone is seeking to be a champion of others around them, a community where everyone is, just that ripple effect of coming with that kind of energy and belief in others, and being rooted at the core of your being, and believing in the people around you, and celebrating and encouraging them with authenticity, becoming a champion in your workplace for the people around you, and a champion in your neighborhood, in your community, wherever you are. I believe that you can do this. I believe that I can do this, that we can live every single day as a champion of others. I want to encourage you, as we're kind of closing our time, is that when we choose to live a charged life, and when we choose actions that make us a champion of others, we create a contagious culture every day in our circles of influence through belief, encouragement, and passion. I believe that you can do this, that you can create a contagious culture. Think about that. When your presence comes in the room, there's a contagiousness to who you are, because you are dialed into what you believe, and you are dialed into the love of God, and it's flowing through you to others, and you are dialed into your vision for the future in your circles of influence and the people around you that you have influence with. And you do this through belief and encouragement and passion. And you bring those gifts to those relationships around you every single day. Well, I would love to hear from you. It fuels my leadership to hear the shifts that you're making in your own leadership, to hear how you've been inspired or encouraged from something with Multiply Leaders or different content. I love to hear, though, just from leaders who are inspired on their journey or they've been encouraged. And so if you'd like to receive an Explicit Leader self-assessment, to take a quick reflection, it's just a one-page assessment in Word doc form, just to take a quick assessment of where you are today, I'd love to give that to you. You can see my email out there up on the screen. You can reach out to us at multiplyingleaders@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you with questions, or just to share something that's refueling you, or to receive that self-assessment. Visit us at multiplyleaders.org. We've got a lot of great content there. You're going to find other resources. You can sign up for our blog posts to be delivered weekly into your inbox. And you can also, we've got some other resources there that I think you're really going to like. So if you're not signed up, if you're not subscribed to get our weekly posts on leadership that are going to inspire you and help you unlock your potential, make sure you visit www.multiplyleaders.org and you can sign up there. Here's some encouragement as we kind of head our separate ways. In Jesus, you are covered in the grace of God. You are empowered with the Holy Spirit. You are called for His purposes. God will never leave you, and He will finish what He started in you. In Jesus, the best is yet to come. I love that statement. In Jesus, the best is yet to come. I hope that encourages you. What will you take away from this webinar? There's two questions. What change will you commit to make from something that resonated with you today? I just want to encourage you to make one change from our time today. And then who will you invite to join you in the process to get friction on your journey, to get tractions in these changes that you're seeking to make? So what's change you're going to commit to make, and who are you going to invite you to make that change? We're available at Multiply Leaders. We love walking beside leaders and coaching. And we coach for life coaching. We coach for leadership coaching. So we'd love to do that and talk to you more. Just reach out to us through the email, and we can give you more information about that. Thanks for joining me on today's webinar. I hope it's encouraged you, I hope it's equipped you, and I hope it's inspired you to live every single day as an explicit leader. Once again, I just want to challenge you. Take the 30-day Explicit Leadership Challenge to read that creed every single morning. And if you'd like a word copy of that creed, email me, and I'd love to send that out to you. But just take, in the first couple hours of your day, take 5 to 10 minutes to get dialed in on your leadership for 30 days straight, and to kind of live from the center of who you are and what you believe every single day.